college football season is a long, wild road, and for the Pitt Panthers, it's just getting started with this season in the palm of their hand. For now, the cathedral stands, glowing with the lights of victory. But after beating an SEC team on the road, are we being set up for a big disappointment? This journey is our life on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world!
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of September 18th, 2021, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
ACC, or no, it should more likely be The Alliance. The Alliance scored a big W over the Super SEC this past weekend when Pitt took the first ever Johnny Majors Classic from the Vols. If you missed it and you watched Oregon beat Ohio State instead, don't worry. You saw the same game. What a big noon it was last weekend, Vince. Pitt coming out on top in a majors win.
Undefeated in Johnny Majors Classics, Pitt is right now. Undefeated on the 2021 season, just bucking a lot of trends left and right, streaks being broken. This Panther team just came out and played hard for 60 minutes, didn't get rattled at the beginning of the game, fought back, and then didn't look back and held on for a big victory. This not saying this is a great Tennessee team, but this could be a program-changing type win now.
So a lot of people are saying, I read that in the Pitt News. I read that online. I read that everywhere. Could be a big changer for Pat Narduzzi and the future of the Pitt Panther football team because of that win. But again, the Vols not very good, so there's stuff to pick apart. There's a lot to talk about, and of course, we're getting ready for, wait, is this week New Hampshire? Is this the New Hampshire week yet?
No,
it's Western Michigan. Damn it. All right, whatever. We'll talk about the Western Michigan game coming up. We got a lot to get into. But first, at H2P Shows, where you can follow us, want to remind you, if you want to reach us on Twitter, give us a follow, interact with us, Hail into Pitt online. That's where you can do it. Or you can email us if you want to send a whole bunch of characters, or as they call them in the English language, sentences. You could send lots of sentences to us, maybe even an attachment of an autograph you got from Tony Dorsett. Hail the number 2, pittpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate the feedback we get online, on the Pitternet, all the time, even on Panther Lair, where we also are lurking and growling with you, Hail into Pitt. And we are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. You could get your own podcast started like this show with your own producer, sounding great, getting things done, only worrying about doing the show instead of all the technical mumbo jumbo. I don't know. I see them with audio waveforms and whatnot and taking out all the stupid stuff we say before the show and in the middle of the show and making it sound like a cohesive show. And they do it at an affordable rate. And you could get started with them right now by going to prettyeasypodcasts.com. Do it. They make podcasting pretty easy. Down by 10 in front of 80,000 people, Vince. 80,000 people, a 10-point deficit, and not once did anyone on the Pitt sideline really, like you say, falter or sway or get rattled. I'm going to say because instead of looking at the scoreboard, people just looked at Kenny Pickett's hair and said, we got this.
Oh, my goodness. Sun just beating down on him, sweating. Mr. Cool over there just sitting on the bench looking like Tim Riggins, just ready to go in there and run somebody over. Oh, my goodness. This guy's got the eye of the Panther. And he just went out there and just started slinging that ball all over the yard. The Panthers just up and down the field. Offense started out a little slow, but once they got in groove, they were tough to stop. Putting up over 40 points on the road against an SEC team that's not Vanderbilt. I don't care who you are. That's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. And, Pitt did it, I think, being kind of one-dimensional on offense, or there's not much running game really to speak of. To get into the good and bad of this, the top good of this whole thing, though, is that this was the first non-conference win, Power 5 non-conference win on the road since 2003, since my first stint as a Pitt student. Before that, Pitt beat A&M in 2003. What was that? Rod Rutherford, we said.
Yeah.
And it's the first one since then. So Pitt obviously owns the SEC whenever they travel to an SEC school, although back then A&M, I guess, wasn't an SEC school. Whatever. Splitting hairs. Pitt finally back on the board on the road in the Power 5.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And, it was obvious. I'd like to get your opinion, Alan, that Tennessee, for all the troubles that this team has had, it just haven't been that great. Coaching changes, tons of players transferring. They still had a lot of athletes on that team, a lot of SEC athletes on that team. And you could tell that, in some areas, special teams probably particular, they had a lot of speed. There was no doubt about that, but Pitt was able to match them.
Yeah, that's not going to be an issue for Tennessee, getting athletes. There's always going to be really good players or really talented athletes that want to play in front of 80,000 people, even if they're going to be on a bad team. But this Tennessee team went out there with two quarterbacks that really couldn't do anything against the Pitt defense. Now, credit to Hendon Hooker, who here and there had some flashes with his legs. Maybe did he expose Pitt or not? We'll talk about that. But you had guys who were recruited by other big-time schools that transferred to Tennessee, a whole lot of them on the field. So this is why you get excited about this. It's not like Pitt was out there against a UMass. They were against a bunch of highly recruited players. And what those are, a lot of them haven't panned out or are really young or have been injury prone. Tennessee has all the excuses in the world for not being an elite SEC team. But the fact of the matter is they are an SEC team with quality players, and the Pitt defense went out there and did what they always do. And they lived up to the hype. And that's what I am most excited about coming out of this game. Stops, takeaways, key moments, did it.
Yep, yeah, specifically in that fourth quarter, a big fourth down stop on the goal line by Johnny Patrician, that Fox Garden, that Fox Garden, the hen house.
I'm still on the fence about that guy, but we'll see.
And then Brandon Hill, a big interception to help close that game out in the fourth quarter. A couple sack fumbles in that game, lots of splash plays. Yeah, they gave up a fair amount of points, but a lot of that, I don't know if it was necessarily, poor defense all the time. It was mostly just missed tackles to me. 19 missed tackles in that game. If they, clean up half those, Pitt probably runs away with this game much more than they did. Some of those were just flat out bad.
Yeah. The thing about this win is it's really exciting. I'm very happy about it, but I feel like the negative, at least on my mind, outweighs all the positive. Now, Pitt almost got 400 yards total offense. They made clutch plays on defense at key moments, but there were penalties. There were so many damn missed tackles at the boundary, especially where you could just easily push a guy out of bounds. And so I do not know what was going on with the Pitt secondary and tackling in this game, but it was atrocious. And then the run game non-existent, and that's probably why this game wasn't put away quicker than it was, because Pitt, I think, was obviously the better football team, but even though Tennessee gave them so much, 13 penalties, 134 yards from that. If there were gifts left and right, but Pitt didn't capitalize enough on those, and that's concerning.
Yeah, they didn't, but they did still put up a lot. I know the running game was not great this game by any stretch, but at the end of the game, when they had to run the clock out with about 5 minutes left, they were able to do that when Tennessee knew that they were going to run. So I thought that was very encouraging that they got some tough yards at the end. I know, Alan, you were critical specifically of that right side of that offensive line during this game.
Gabe Hoy, what are you doing to me here? Come on. I mean, let's get a push. Let's get something. Why not try to cheat a little and jump a little bit before the ball's even snapped? Do something here, Gabe Hoy, or get out of the game. I'm calling him out. He's had the opportunities. Pitt has guys they can go to try. They could try out on the offensive line we've talked about before, who maybe aren't as experienced, but might be better options. They're going to find out hopefully soon, because you can't go on into ACC play like this. I'm going to say this, though, back to the good. I do want to point out, I think the biggest takeaway is that there were none for Tennessee. I mean, obviously, you had the special teams splash play, but Kenny Pickett in the offense didn't give the ball up in front of 80,000 people in that atmosphere. To play smart with the football is huge in that atmosphere. So I'm going to really offensively hang my hat on that as a Pitt fan. And of course the defense making life hell. Milton didn't want to go back in the game. Hooker got out there and was excited to, but he could only do one thing. And once that got figured out, he was done.
Yeah. I thought it was, very well coached on defense. I hear some people complaining, there were some receivers that were wide open. That was by design. We know Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker can't hit those deep passes. So you make the other team's weakness try to beat you. You're not going to let them run on you. We talked about how good those running backs were in Tennessee's first game. They got nothing this game. We said we got to contain some of those quarterback runs. For the most part, we held them down pretty good. We got pressure. We pressed the receivers at the line of scrimmage. We had one-on-one coverage, and we made them make a tough throw. And most of the time, they couldn't do it. So from that standpoint, I thought it was very well coached. It used our personnel the way they should be deployed against this type of offense, which is a tough offense to stop. Spreading guys out. They did have some fast receivers, but for the most part, we held them down.
Yeah, and the tackling again was just terrible. So it made maybe the Tennessee receivers look better than they actually were. Pitt took their chances against this offense. Now that's the big question too I have coming out of this. Was this matching up your opponent and calling plays according to who you're playing, or was that just a perfect fit for Tennessee's weaknesses against Pitt and what they do well, pushing up against receivers, daring you to throw downfield and getting after the quarterback? Like, if Pitt does that against UNC, I don't know if that will work.
Well, I'll say this. Yeah. I mean, this was a perfect matchup, and we talked about this last week. That this offense Tennessee has, at least from the quarterback position, is tailor made for what Pitt's trying to do on defense. Whenever they're going up against a North Carolina, that might not be the case. They may not be able to leave some of those cornerbacks out on an island, nearly as much. But maybe they do something different, mix up some blitzes a little bit more, be able to get to the quarterback quicker. I'm not sure, but I guarantee you the scheme will be tweaked a little bit.
I hope.
I hope so too.
Because a lot of it's odd. Everything coming out of this Pitt win feels like a big early season Pitt victory that we always see. But then you throw in the big differences. This was in an SEC stadium in front of 80,000 people, and there was adversity that was overcome. So that's exciting to see. But then again, you do see, okay, it was a favorable matchup for Pitt. It was not a quality SEC opponent they faced. And, I'm still nervous. I think, what did I call 4 straight ACC losses to start this ACC schedule? And I'm not backing off from that, from what I saw in that game, Vince. I'll tell you that coming out of the Tennessee win. I'm pumped. I have hope, but I'm not, as a bettor, I'm not going to back away from that. I still think there's vulnerabilities for Pitt because they just have the lack of a run game. And then we saw the poor tackling. Oh my goodness. And then everyone's favorite fault when it comes to the Pitt Panthers, just wacky decisions when it comes to choosing to kick a field goal. Jeez, man.
It somehow worked out, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, that was the right. I think coach has probably learned his lesson on that.
Almost as fortunate as John Gruden's field goal kicking decisions this past weekend. That was some dumb luck, but I mean, I guess this was testing your kickers was part of the thinking, I would hope. I don't know the answer Narduzzi gave about that, but did anyone even dare ask him? I'm
not sure. I can't recall in the post game press conferences if that was talked about. But outside, if you're going to talk about the kickers, outside of that, they did pretty good. They're doing, which a position that was, in question at the beginning of the season seems to have held up. But Alan, if they make some tackles and make more tackles, and maybe Hooker doesn't get one of those long runs, maybe that touchdown they gave up at the end of the first half, Tennessee doesn't get that, and Pitt wins this game, a 41 to 17 or 41-24. Are we looking at this? How much different are we looking at this game?
Oh yeah, if this ended up a 2-score game, then I would be talking about the Pitt Panthers have figured out how to dominate. I mean, because they really, when you look at it, after the fact, they should have dominated Tennessee, I feel. And then you probably listened to a Tennessee Volunteers podcast this week, and they probably said, we should have got him. We had him. They couldn't even stop Hooker.
Yeah.
But that's how football goes. But there are numbers and there are optics that support Pitt, better football team, and I really feel like they should have won by at least 10. So that's a disappointment. Overall, coming out of it, can't complain though. It was a W, and the unfortunate thing is it's too. I mean, I don't know if what do you call them? Letdowns, trap games, whatever you want to say before ACC play starts. I hate the upcoming schedule after this Tennessee game, Vince. Absolutely hate it. This is the time where we would need the alliance.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, Pitt has had so many tough non-conference schedules where they've had to go up against, multiple top 10 teams, even before they get to the conference play. In college football, you're better off beating a bad team than losing to a good team. So I'm not going to complain about this. I mean, we still got to go out there and get the job done. We got to stay focused. But to me, this is welcomed. I don't care what anybody says.
You really are so you're excited for Western Michigan? Coming off of the Tennessee game, I would have been happier with like a Northwestern matchup at home, or Oregon State coming to Heinz Field. That's what I'm looking forward to one day.
Oh my!
That may happen. Where we're at, yeah. We're at Western Michigan, the Broncos.
Yeah. But before we jump into that game, one last thing about the Tennessee game, and this may be my favorite part about the Tennessee game, is that now that we have an SEC team to root for the rest of the year.
Yeah, big Volunteers fans here on this show. Let's go get them. You think who are we going with this week? Is Hooker or Milton starting? See, I'm all about Hooker the rest of the way for us. That's what I'm saying.
I think I don't know how they could go with Milton. I mean, they are playing. They're playing. They're playing like Tennessee Tech or somebody. Somebody horrible.
Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles before we take on Florida on the road, and we're going to beat them.
Is that team that Eddie George is coaching?
Tennessee Tech, is that and they just played Deion Sanders' team?
I don't know, but this team is, whoever they're playing is supposed to be pretty bad. So they should win. And then, Florida, I think they do have a chance against Florida. I think Florida is very overrated. We'll be talking about them at the end of the show.
I honestly don't. I don't know if Tennessee's going to win another game after this week until they play Vanderbilt in their last game of the year.
Some people are thinking that, I'm sure.
Definitely be the case, and that would be very bad for Pitt. But we'll root for them the rest of the way, and can't wait to see them coming up for the next Johnny Majors Classic. But we must move on because the Western Michigan Broncos are coming to town, and you never want to let up, even if you're facing a team like a Western Michigan and Ohio or whoever we see in this spot every single year, because you could be let down when you have major ACC games coming up. These are tune-ups. This isn't a preseason game though, because there are some issues that the Pitt defense could even face this week, Vince.
Yeah. Western Michigan, I know their offense hasn't necessarily shown it tremendously this year, but they got a pretty good quarterback in Caleb Elby, a very efficient guy with a strong arm. He's been a multiple year starter. He's willing to push that ball down the field, regarded as one of the best quarterbacks in the MAC. And they got a pretty good running back tandem with Ladarius Jefferson and Sean Tyler. So they're a pretty well balanced attack. I know they didn't quite show it against Michigan. That game got away from them pretty quickly. But this isn't going to be. This is not a UMass coming to town, Alan, or a Bishop Sycamore for that matter.
No, there's nothing fake about the Broncos here. This is a legitimate. They haven't gotten off to a hot start, but it's like a legitimate statistical offense that can hurt you if you're not messing around. If you're messing around, if you want to pull up the analytics on the Western Michigan Broncos, there are some ratings that have them not even top 25. I'm talking top 10, top 12 offenses in the country.
Yeah,
when it comes to under the hood stats, overall performance. Not a team to be messed with, although they did come out in their first game and they got beat up pretty good against Michigan. They only put up 14 against the Michigan. So if you correlate that to Pitt, Vince, Pitt should win in a similar fashion if they're at home and taking on a team that's probably not as pumped as they were to face Michigan, although now they are a few weeks in, so their offense is probably humming a little bit better than it was that week.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think that, Western Michigan's getting a little bit more in groove. That, they shut out Illinois State last week, 28-0. So I think they're getting into the swing of things of the season. And that tackling that we had last week, it's got to improve, and I think it's going to be tested this week. Ladarius Jefferson, their running back, is 6'1", 235, a big boy to bring down. So that tackling has to be improved. And if I'm coach, he said that we were going to have some live periods this week with tackling during practice. And you got to think, if you're a player, and you miss a tackle out there in the game, you might be sitting on the bench. You might not get a chance to get back in.
When we were watching, I said, what is he going to do to these guys for missing these tackles? What did Narduzzi do to all the players that missed all these tackles? Because, what could you do? These were egregious missed tackles. And I just hope more than anything, Pitt tackles well, and is prepared to play, because it could be a dogfight. Now you're talking about, just look, I like comparing because we're talking about an alliance team this team faced. So it's fun to compare. And so when we say Pitt's going up against a team Michigan thumped and had some, just big splash plays on offense, but really ran it all over them, down their throats.
Yeah.
Pitt can't do that. So if Pitt can't run the ball on this team, they're going to have to control clock with, Kenny Pickett's efficient arm, and of course not turning the ball over and making, big time plays on defense. And that's definitely doable. But this is not a game where, I feel like in the fourth quarter it's going to be wrapped up and we're just going to have a fun 15 minutes of just looking ahead to the big New Hampshire game.
Well, I hope we're in a situation where we could have a fun 15 minutes or maybe a fun 30 minutes. I think we cannot overlook this Western Michigan team. It's going to be tough. But, if Pitt's defense comes out on fire and, Pitt's offense continues to build upon what they have been, getting that running game going a little bit, but also, this passing offense has been tough to stop. A lot of guys getting involved. And we saw, Western Michigan, when they played Michigan in that first game, they gave up 2 touchdown passes of over 70 yards. So, they are, vulnerable deep. And, maybe this is a week where, we're really going to see some airing it out. And really spreading the ball around. We've been doing that, and maybe I think that's really going to continue. That seems to be what our game plan is just passing to set up the run, and I think that's okay if you're efficient at it, and which it seems like we are at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a really, really quality performance by the secondary coming out of this game. Because I think the matchups are there. Again, Pitt's going to be able to just play the exact type of defense they want to play. So when they're in that situation, that's why you feel cozy about this one. Caleb Ellaby is a guy who can, he's reliable, and I think he's a good MAC quarterback for this day and age. Maybe not in the heyday of the MAC. I don't know if this guy would have started. But now, he's solid, which is what Pitt saw in Ohio when they faced, what was his name? O'Rourke or whatever. He's playing in the CFL now. Yeah. A professional quality quarterback of a sort. So there's issues that could happen here if you mess up and you miss tackles again and you blow coverages. And we haven't seen that part of it yet from Pitt, but the good thing about a game like this is the Pitt defense is so reliable, I feel like, at this point, even with the bad tackling last week, that they're going to be able to handle Western Michigan on that side. Turning the ball over. Can they go 2 weeks in a row without turning the ball over on offense? That's a major thing I'll be looking out for, Vince.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like we said, Kenny Pickett, he's been taking the care of the ball very well. Some good play designs, not having to make, extremely difficult throws.
Because he's not really tired because he doesn't have to run to the sideline as much this year so far.
Yeah,
so
he
that's
hasn't
also
been doing as much of that. There were some fumbles in that UMass game, but, that seems like it was corrected for this game last week against Tennessee. So we got to keep that going. Not that we ran a ton against Tennessee. Maybe that's why. But yeah. If Pitt doesn't turn this ball over in this game, and they play as aggressively as they have been on defense, that's going to go a long way to getting a W here.
Yep. So we're going to put a pin in it, and we will get to our picks for that game, our predictions. But I'll just say this: that on one side of that offensive line, Vince, they've got a guard in Dylan Dietrich, who's one of the worst pass protectors in the country, according to PFF, which we're utilizing this week to inform us on especially some of these non-alliance teams. But I'm looking at the grading on their offensive line. Could be a field day for guys like Haba, John.
Yeah.
Gordon, so
yeah, I mean, if they're vulnerable up the middle, I mean, Kalijah Cansey and Keyshawn Camp last week played a hell of a game. Those guys were bringing it constantly up the center, making it difficult for whoever was playing quarterback there.
Oh yeah, so this could be a big game for the Pitt D line as per usual, but especially maybe they can just really beef up those numbers, those pressure numbers, to show that Pitt is the D line university that everyone knows it is. But here we go, Vince. What do you say we get back to that and we go out into the cyberspace to see what people are saying about the Pitt Panthers on the Pitternet?
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
So it was announced this week that the Backyard Brawl next year will open up the season on a Thursday night. Thursday night action on, I believe it's September the 1st, 2022. Vince, is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this has been officially announced, but this has all but been confirmed by, several sources I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. From a football standpoint, I think this is very good because this is going to be a nasty game. I don't think there's any other way to look at it. It's going to be a hard-hitting game. And in week 2, the Tennessee Volunteers are coming to town. So any extra rest that we could get before that game, I think would be welcome.
See, that's what I'm all about. This is Alliance football, baby. This is big games week to week. Don't you love to see it? I like it. I would have been happier with this being the last game before ACC play, personally. But to start it off this way, this gives so much hype and a big spotlight to both schools. More importantly, Pitt, for when they go out there and beat WVU in a big one. But there's a lot of trash talk already. I mean, it's heating up already. I saw John Antonick, who's a WVU guy, tweeting out about Pitt this week. I mean, WVU people haven't talked about Pitt in years because when it comes to football, because they haven't had to. But he was talking about how Pitt hasn't had a real significant ACC win or big game.
I mean, I would still say 13-9 is a way bigger win than the Clemson win because you're beating your biggest rival on national television, or maybe not your biggest rival, but beating one of your main rivals on national television, and you stop them from playing for the national championship game, which they haven't even been close to sniffing since then, and maybe will never again if they're not part of an alliance.
Let the trash talk begin, and then just under a year from now, we'll be able to maybe forget about 13-9 because Pitt. We're going to talk about 69-0. Pitt defeating WVU in the first game of the year. That's what I'm predicting right now, this very second. Although I don't know who's going to be quarterback. That's an issue. Do we have to break that game down just yet? Can we put a pin in that as well?
Yeah, I think we could wait, but I'm very excited to talk about it. As soon as the season's over, we will be.
Only bummer is there will be no game day or big noon kickoff for that because it is a Thursday night.
Well, it is going to be the Thursday night opening to the season. I wonder if I would think that this is going to be the ESPN nationally televised game, and maybe they are going to have their crew there for this one. I wouldn't rule it out.
At least we'll get Joe Tessitore. That's what I think Pitt will probably get for that. No Corso, no Bear, no Ashton Kutcher making the picks before the game. But it'll be entertaining. Nonetheless, at T. Meberg on Twitter on the Pitternet said, how to fix Pitt's football program. Number 1, build a stadium on campus. Number 2, get an actually living Panther as a mascot. Number 3, done. You know who agrees with Team Eberg? Kenny Pickett. Because what I learned on the Kenny Pickett show last week was that Kenny Pickett is lobbying hard for an on-campus stadium, although he doesn't know where they're going to put it.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to put it either. I mean, yeah, it would be great, but I mean, it doesn't seem like it's happening anytime soon. And if it did, I'm sure a lot of people would find some things to complain about.
With all due respect, and I love the street, but there are some, shacks on Bates that they could probably knock down that are probably already just standing there and condemned, and no one's allowed near them anyway. So.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think it would be great if they just, leveled that whole area and just had a huge parking lot and a stadium of appropriate size.
Oh,
but then I think
really world class would be if they built the stadium, but also attached affordable housing for students and community members to the stadium. Why not do that? It's a big old building. You could do that.
That's what I was about to say. If you leveled the South Oakland area, where would the students be getting down to like the latest jams?
That's true. There are a lot of old Italian folks that I knew at least that you're shout out to the Provenzanos and the crew. You got those people also need a place to call home. So Kenny Pickett needs to maybe slow his roll on that, but he doesn't have the sway that he would need to get that built just yet.
Although maybe by the end of the year he might.
True. That's true. If he could stay one more year, beat WVU, get to the college football playoff, then Kenny Pickett could probably get the stadium built. But until then, not seeing it. And as far as a living panther as a mascot, I'm a fan of big cats, but after seeing that Tiger King and seeing also what goes down at LSU and living down there, I'm not for the living animal mascot, at least at my university. I think people with statues and students wearing costumes.
I would be okay with it. Maybe they could just borrow it from the zoo every Saturday. Leave it up to the zookeepers to take care of it.
They're already under enough stress to worry about a football game. I don't want to do that to the hardworking zookeepers at the Pittsburgh Zoo. What do you say though? Let's get away from the Oakland Zoo and go all the way around Pittsburgh and see what they're saying about Pitt coming out of that big Tennessee victory, Vince.
Yeah, let's do it.
Another Saturday coming and the Panthers are playing. Time to find out what the Yinzers are saying.
You see that game versus Tennessee?
Oh, yeah, buddy. Ain't no way Pitt finishing outside the top 25 this year after that win.
Oh, I don't know, though. Them corners, they could hardly tackle.
Yeah, they did get whooped on a good bit.
And they ain't got no run game either.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe they'll win the Coastal and finish outside the top 25 then. But still, pretty good.
Hell to Pitt.
What the Yinzers are saying.
That's what the Yinzers are saying. Still not a lot of satisfied people after that game against Tennessee, but I am. I'll take it. I thought it was a huge accomplishment. Alan, we got some. We were talking about WVU. WVU's got a big game this week. A lot of big games around the country that we got to talk about.
Yo, college football! Don't you dare think that last week's big noon kickoffs were all we're going to get this year. They're going to be coming each and every single week. Going to be tough to top, though. Pitt beating Tennessee while Oregon beats Ohio State at the same time, playing virtually the same exact game. If you watched them on two screens like we did, it was like Pitt scored, Oregon scored, Ohio State scored, Tennessee scored. It was nuts, and they were both very exciting. And then we went on, we saw USC lose and them fire their coach. College football, doing what college football does. This week, we might get more of it. Vatek, a favorite of this show since week one, taking on the Hoopleheads at WVU. I'm pulling this up to get my advanced analytics out of this one, Vince, because I'm going to be leaning Virginia Tech here, but then again, not at home for this one, right?
No, they're in the 15th ranked Hokies are a 2.5 point dog in Morganhole this weekend. I was surprised to see Virginia Tech be an underdog in this game. That's got me a little nervous.
I'm not. I'm surprised it's just not posted as even. This is even to me. This is a
West Virginia is not good.
Their defense is not bad.
How are their special teams?
They're going to
be tested this week.
That's true. But when it comes to the defense of WVU, I feel like that'll give them a chance if Virginia Tech is out of the gates fast. But this is their first road test, so here we go. I don't know. I like this new guy, this Burmeister for Virginia Tech. He looks like he's got the goods. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to pick Virginia Tech to win, even though they're not putting up the points, even though they're not doing it pretty. I'm still picking Virginia Tech on the road. I could see it. I'm pulling for the Alliance again. Let's do it.
Yeah, this is going to just be a nasty game. I don't know what to make of it. I'm still very surprised that WVU's favored. I guess I'll pick Virginia Tech, but I'm going to tread very lightly.
It's It's a tough call. WVU's coming into this game. Who have they? I'm pulling up.
They got
pulling
beat
them up
by,
right now.
They got beat by Maryland, and then they
was
beat,
a hell of a game. That might have been the best game of week 1.
And I think they beat up Bishop Sycamore in their second game.
Yeah, they beat up, what was it, like Long Island University or something?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, the Sharks, recently renamed. I think that's a new name for them. They 66-0. Looking at, they got Dogecoin at quarterback. So this is a team that, in their first game was in a big one and they failed on the road. This is their first important game at home. It's so tough. I don't want to pick WVU, even though I do feel like they're going to win. Go Virginia Tech. I'm picking them to win. Let's say 33-30.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The next game here, the top rank Alabama laying about 14.5 on the road against 11th ranked Florida. Allen, I look at this game and this. I cannot believe this line is as low as it is. Florida is going to be deploying a 2-quarterback system, and where the quarterbacks are primarily runners. And I just cannot see how that is going to work against a Nick Saban team where Nick Saban is just extremely pissed off right now.
Nick Saban it's different because usually coming off of a championship, he's mad or coming out of a year, he's mad. He's usually because he didn't win the championship. But now he's coming into it as a champion, but he's pissed because he has $1 million quarterback. Nick Saban's so angry that his quarterback really has nothing to prove or really do, but he's still getting great performance out of Bryce Young. Meanwhile, you have Florida coming in here, and I mean, this is going to be laughable. It's really 15, you said? 15?
14.5. I mean, I grabbed it at 14 earlier this week. Maybe I'm going to look like a fool in this. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I've seen 15. I've seen 14.5. It's kind of just bouncing around there. I mean, do people really think that Florida's going to put up enough points on Alabama? I mean, this is a total of 60, Allen. So, there's obviously some points expected to be scored here. I mean, can Florida actually do that? Again, I mean, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. What are they going to do?
Who will play more? Emory Jones will get the majority of the snaps. Hasn't he been?
I guess. I don't know what Dan Mullen's thinking here. I mean, he's been very good in these kinds of spots in the past, but just by handicapping this game, I just don't see it.
This is really odd. I mean, this is an Alabama defense that's as fast and smart as ever, I feel, against 2 guys who can't really throw. How's Florida going to – maybe this is the game Bryce Young just comes out and trips up on all of his money. Maybe he's going to – maybe a coin flies out of his pocket and he trips. I don't know. I'm taking Alabama with the points. This feels like one of the easier bets we've had in college football. But then again, that usually means something's up.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I would not step in front of Alabama right now, at least not with a team like Florida.
No, thank you. Next up, Vince, we've got another SEC versus Alliance game, and I don't care for either team.
Well, I don't care for Auburn, but I think I speak for everybody in that we were going to be cheering for Auburn pretty hard in this one. The Auburn Tigers, ranked number 22 in the country by the Associated Press, are going on the road to Penn State.
This is cool.
A Saturday night game.
Is this game day?
Yes, this is game day.
Yeah.
This is the whiteout. They're the supposed most unstoppable force in all of the land in this one. Auburn opened as a 7 or 6.5 point underdog. This has come down to 4.5.
Oh,
in some areas. You could grab them right now, a 4.5 at Caesars or Circa. Still owed 5.5 at the Superbook. So obviously there's been some support for Auburn in the market here. I don't know what to make of this game at all. I don't think Penn State looked very good against Wisconsin. I thought they were very lucky to win that game, and Auburn has gone up against 2 sacks of flour, and they just beat the hell out of them. So I don't know what they expect from Auburn here. They got a good defense. They got some good running backs, but the legend of Bo Nix is
legendary.
Yeah, is he going to be someone that's finally going to rise to the occasion and get a huge road win?
This is his moment. This is his big moment. Contrary to popular belief, he's not even that much, at least statistically, better thrower than Sean Clifford. But it feels like it's like this do nothing quarterback who could just move a game along against this good passer in this game. That's on paper it looks to me, but they are both wild card quarterbacks when you break it down. These are two guys that are the team kind of lives or dies with, because they can go out there and make boneheaded mistakes, play a little too loose. That's exciting though. That's what makes this matchup so fun.
Yeah, and that's Penn State's got some pretty good receivers, and late in that game against Wisconsin, they were running wide open for some reason. I don't think that's going to happen against Auburn at all. But at the same time, Penn State, they do have some good athletes on defense, and if Bo Nix gets rattled a little bit, he can make some huge mistakes that could cost them a game. This is a very tough one to pick. I'm inclined to pick Auburn here. I think the line was set a little high intentionally based on home field advantage. And I think the public's going to be playing off that. I don't think I'm going to get involved, but if I was going to, I'd side with Auburn. I'm definitely cheering for Auburn.
Oh man, it's the first time I'm cheering for Auburn.
I know. Yeah, because I don't care for Auburn.
I don't care for Auburn, but I'm cheering hard for him. But let me see. I'm gonna give my official pick here in a second. I want to grade out. I'm looking up and grading out the interior defensive lines for this one. This is where it's going to matter the most. Up the gut, who's going to get in the face of these two quarterbacks who could get shook easily. You got Auburn has 2 studs in the middle, and Colby Wooden and Marcus Harris, as far as I'm concerned. They both have different, aspects of the game. One, you got a pass rush, and you have the run defense with Marcus Harris. Colby Wooden in the face of Sean Clifford. What's Penn State have up the middle? They usually have good edge rushers, right? But they don't have any great big fatsos who could plug or throw a guard to the side and destroy a Bo Nix.
Yeah, I would say that their defensive line is not as strong as what it's been in the past, but they're still got good players there. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I'm going Auburn. I respect the size and the fortitude in the middle, in those A gaps, in the B gaps. And that's where it's going to happen. Right in Sean Clifford's face. Elbow gets hit. Dying quail in the air. Big interception for Auburn to flip field position and get the big win on the road. And all the white in Beaver Stadium turns brown.
War Eagle. Last game we're going to talk about here, a Pac-12 After Dark special. Number 19, Arizona State. Laying 3.5 on the road at BYU, who's ranked number 23. Alan, BYU coming off of a huge home win against their biggest rival, Utah, last week. And Arizona State, I feel, is a very underrated team. I'm gonna lay the points here with Arizona State, but I'm treading very lightly here. I'm surprised this line is this close, but I think Arizona State's a pretty solid ball club. I really do.
Yeah, and I respect Herm Edwards.
Yeah.
I respect what BYU's done. They're prepping their program to become now a Power 5 or whatever you're going to consider the Big 12 in the future. But Arizona State, man, they could score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could score. I like them, and I might even tease this up. Give me more money. I like them by at least a touchdown.
Okay.
You know, there's a big come down game coming after that win. They hadn't beaten them in a while, right?
I don't believe so. Yeah, that's how I look at it. A big letdown spot for the Cougars. Western Michigan is a about 14.5 or 15-point underdog, depending on where you look, at Heinz Field this week, Alan. We talked about it, how, Pitt's offense is just humming and that their defense seems just too good for Western Michigan really to light them up. I do see Pitt winning this game, but by more than 2 touchdowns. I think they're playing really well, and I think they're focused. I think all the seniors on this team are really helping things out and staying locked in for this ball game. And so I'm gonna say Pitt's gonna win this game about we'll say 42 to 20.
Yep, and that's basically what they should have beaten Tennessee by. And I see this game very much in the same realm as Tennessee, but instead of substituting a bunch of highly recruited players that were transferred in, we're talking about a bunch of players who weren't as highly recruited by other universities, but are MAC caliber. And you might even see a couple NFLers on the opposite side of the field from Pitt in this game. Who they are exactly, I don't know. I haven't done the scouting on them that closely. All I know is that Pitt is facing a team they match up well against, but also a team that is quality and able. Anytime you have a quarterback who's played multiple years and started and has been as efficient as Caleb Ellaby, you should show them some respect. Now, saying that, Pitt has a vastly superior defensive line to what Western Michigan is posing offensively. So they should destroy this team by that much, as you said, 22. And Pitt favored by what in this game, Vince? I'm looking at 15?
15, 14.5.
Pitt's covered so far 2 times in a row, and they're going to do it again. I like Pitt, let's say 37-9.
Okay. You're not going to give me a Chris Berman type score of 22-19.
Pitt wins 5-3. 5-4. No. Yeah, I'm going to go 37-9. That's close. That's kind of a Berman-esque number.
Yeah, he would
Swami
say
number,
something like that.
A Swami number. And that total is at 59. That's definitely an under then. I don't know if Pitt's hit the total every game. I didn't look at that.
Well, yeah, I think they've gone over both times.
Ooh, maybe I was being conservative.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, are people still not wising up to this, that this Pitt offense might actually be good? Honestly, I mean,
it's just it's so bizarre because they can't run the ball, and then you have goofy quarterback running to the offensive coordinator for play calls. You've got a right side of the O-line that looks anemic at times, and I don't know. It's just it's tough to show that kind of confidence, I think, if you're setting lines here.
Yeah, it's they just maybe that lack of a running game is worrying some people, and they still haven't fully decided on who the main running back's going to be. It's kind of just a hodgepodge of several different guys, and I don't think anybody's played particularly poorly. It's just nobody's really just taken a stranglehold on that position.
Grab the Bronco by the saddle and take over that spot. I can't think of the analogy. Just beat the hell out of Western Michigan, Anaconda, and win your damn job. Give us some confidence in the run game. But I know it's tough when you're running behind. Some would say a rough offensive line, at least to start. But it's kind of what we expected.
We should say this, though. The pass blocking, I think, has been very good. Yes. For as much heat we were giving them on some of this run blocking. I think the pass block, I'm not saying it's been perfect, but it's not like Kenny's getting sacked every play.
Kenny
he's had time to make good throws.
Kenny has taken at least one good lick in both games so far. Last week, I don't think it was as much as his fault as it was trying to do too much in week 1 when he got walloped a little bit. But last week, they were fine. Good pro. They had good pro. But this is going to get more interesting in a few weeks when ACC play starts. This week, though, come on, offensive line, damn it, and no false starts. 9 penalties against Western Michigan could put them in trouble too. Make it a scary last 15 minutes.
What do you think the conversation was like at the Oaklander this week?
Oh, it was all about Kenny Pickett and what he was doing in Knoxville. Like, what does the BMOC do?
Well, I mean, what was he telling the offensive line whenever he took him there?
At the Oaklander? I mean, I'm sure he was saying, "Good pro, good pro, good pro." Good show. That's it. We're done. We did it.
Yep. We're that's the end of this week's show. Pitt, I think we both expect them to win pretty comfortably here and continue this season that is just continually breaking streaks and disturbing trends that haven't happened in quite a while.
And it's also going to be a historic game. The first ever Pitt football game on St. Patrick's Day. How's that work? I don't know. But they're going to be doing it in front of not 80,000 fans, but a lot of drunk fans outside of Heinz Field.
Yeah. I don't think too many people are going to make it inside for this one.
But it's going to be a very lovely weekend for everybody, I think. And when we get back here next week, it is finally on. Pitt, New Hampshire, the game we've all been waiting for. We circled our calendars. We just got to get through one more set, just 4 more quarters, and we're there.
Yeah, we got to take care of this Western Michigan ball game first, and I think we can do it.
Thanks for listening, everybody. As always, we want to just let you know we appreciate you for being a Pitt Panther fan, first and foremost, and secondly, for listening to the show, and then third, for just telling people about it. If you know anybody who's a Pitt fan, you should tell them about the podcast, because I'm sure they would enjoy it. And then they could tell their friends, and then they'll tell their friends. And before you know it, we're doing a live show at the Pete. That's the ultimate goal. Let's get there one step at a time. But you got to tell your friends first. Leave those reviews on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe on whatever podcast gimmick you enjoy using. Spotify, Google, I don't care. Just hit subscribe and make sure you listen each and every single week. We're on this road, this journey. It's our life this season. It's exciting. Pitt's undefeated and we're enjoying it, but I still don't know how to talk about the team as much as I do when they're losing. And that'll probably be coming later in the season. But until then, very joyous occasion doing this podcast every week because you're listening. Thank you to everybody on Pantherland, on Twitter, at H2P Show. Until then, Vince, let them know.
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt, everybody. See you next week.
Living in your